Hi, I'm Mick from American Air Cannons, and today we're going to be building a MBTS-30 T-Shirt launcher. So when you get your box in the mail, it's going to look something like this. So just open your box up. You're going to pull out your chamber, your barrel, and a box of parts. Go ahead and get that box out of your way. These are the main parts of the cannon right here. Your sprinkler valve. Should have a bag that has a trigger, a Schrader valve, a nipple, and your pressure gauge. A ring. Miscellaneous parts for putting it together. And we can just discard all these boxes and get those out of our way. So, first thing I like to do is I'll pull out the sprinkler valve. And this is an Orbit Watermaster 3/4 inch sprinkler valve. You can get these at Home Depot anywhere. Go ahead and dump the box, you're not going to need that. And as you can see, this is the part that ignites it. We're going to get rid of this as well. We don't need this, we'll toss that out. So I've got a regular Phillips screwdriver here. This is a ratchet drive. And what I'll do is I'm going to pull the cap off this. You have 8 screws on here. So pull all the screws off. Careful not to lose them. What we're going to do once we get this cap off is we're going to drill this area of the head out for the trigger assembly. So this is real easy to pop off. What I do is I just hold the valve this way and I put my finger over this part and I just pop it open and it pops apart, and as you can see, that's all there is to it. There's just 3 parts. The spring is very important, don't lose it. So we're going to set these off to the side here. We're going to go ahead and open our bag of parts here. Now the first thing I do is I'm going to drill this out. And I'll show you, it's real easy to do. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a 1/2 inch drill bit and we're going to drill out the hole for the trigger. Real basic. What I do, I got a little drill press right here. I'm going to put in my 1/2 inch bit, tighten it down. I like to have something that holds the cap so it doesn't twist in your hand. It's a little more safety involved. So what I do is I put it in upside down into this little vise here. Make sure it sits flat. I'm going to line it up under my drill press. Start my drill. And I just go real slowly. Just take my time. The slower you go, the better drilling you're going to get. It's going to be a real nice clean hole and it's not going to grab it and jerk it around and warp the hole. Now the next thing I do is I went to Home Depot and I bought this little 7/16 die tap. So it's just NPT thread and I'll just get it started in there. I'm going to pull out my 7/16 box end wrench, get it on the end of that little pipe tap, and I'm just going to do on and off twisting motion here, and I'm going to thread the hole for my trigger assembly. You don't want to do it too deep or too wide. These things are tapered, so the farther you go, the bigger the hole gets. I go about 3/4 of the way down on this 7/16, and that seems to be just about right. You get a nice snug fit without making the nipple stick in too far, because if it goes in too far, it's going to push against that diaphragm and you'll get a leaky gun. So, pull out our pipe tap. And as you can see, we've got a perfect hole here, tapped with our 7/16 pipe tap. And now we have a perfectly threaded receiver for our nipple. So I'm just going to stick the nipple in here, and it should screw right into place. Just like that. So the next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to fill this hole with some JB Weld. We're also going to fill this hole with some JB Weld. So let's mix up a little batch of that right now. Now, if you don't have JB Weld, you could use something like a stick and seal here, which is a weatherproof adhesive, or you could use some silicone or anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill up both of these holes. The little trigger thing here, on or off, doesn't matter. You can leave it straight up and down, you can leave it to the side. I put mine to the side because I know that's shutting the valve off. And I'm just going to throw a nice wad in here. Tamp it down in there so you get a good seal all the way around. And I'm going to put another little bit into the hole next to it. We got to make sure both of these chambers are sealed. So make sure you put a nice little load in there. So while that's drying, let's put the rest of this thing together here. So the next thing I do is I take the cap. Now on this cap, we know that we're going to have, according to our directions, we're going to have the Schrader valve, or the air fill valve, is going to be sticking out the front of this thing. So we're going to need to drill this out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap out these the bits here. I'm going to put a 1/4-inch bit in here. This one you want to be really careful about. You need some sort of clamp to hold it down. I got one of these little pipe clamps that I use. So line it up with the center. Make sure your pipe clamp's got it nice and secure. Same thing, we're just going to drill this out, and just take your time. Drill it slowly so you get a nice smooth hole and the thing doesn't jump around on you. You can see as you're done, you end up with a nice smooth hole here. Now with this guy, we can self-tap this with a 1/4-inch Schrader valve here. So we're just going to line that up in the hole, make sure it's straight. Give it a twist, get it started. And again, we're going to use our 7/16 box wrench. Give it a good twist on there. And it'll thread itself right into the hole. I'm going to set it down here so I have some leverage. And just take your time so you don't strip it. You don't need to put any Teflon tape or anything like that on it. It has a pretty good seal by itself, as long as you drill a nice smooth hole without it jumping around. That's what's so important about having that pipe holder there. So, there it is. You've got your Schrader valve all set. So now what we do is we would glue this piece onto the end of the chamber here. This is your 12-inch chamber piece. One of these slips is going to go on here. Now I'm not gluing these because this is for demonstration purposes. These parts you would definitely want to glue, and you're going to want to be pretty liberal with your gluing as well, because you don't want to have any links, so slop it on there pretty good. This next piece slides right in here like this. This last piece slips right into here. So we're going to set that down. Same with the barrel. Put this slip joint on there. Set that there. We have two more pieces just like the ones that we put on the chamber. I'm going to slide that in there, that one in there. These parts you also glue. Okay, so we're going to go back to our air chamber now. We need to drill one more hole, and that's going to go right here, and that's for our pressure valve to go in. All right? So we're going to switch out our bits. I've already done so. I've got my my next smallest bit here, which is a 1/4 inch bit, I believe. And I'm going to line it up. We're going to lock it down with our pipe clamp so it doesn't jump around on us. Get it right where we want it. We're going to go ahead and drill this out. Same as before, we're just going to take our time, do it slowly. So now we're going to pull out our pressure gauge here, unpack it from its box. Go ahead and toss the box, you don't need it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hand thread this right into the hole we just drilled. And you don't want to stress on this thing too much. When it starts feeling really tight with your hand, go ahead and switch to your 9/16 wrench, and we're going to finish cranking it down. Just take your time, do it slowly so you don't cross thread it. We don't want to strip it out because this has to be airtight. And I'll crank it around until my gauge looks like it's lined up nice and neat. If you're holding it like a gun, you want your gauge to read this way. So, there's our air chamber. We've got our shredder valve for filling it with air. We've got our pressure gauge to let us know how much is air that we put in there. I only use about 80 pounds. I never need to go more than 80 psi on these things. They shoot plenty far without it. So our chamber is all glued together. Our barrel is all glued together. So we're going to put our sprinkler valve back together. Now that the glue is dried, we're going to put our spring in. Going to put our cap. There's a little notch in here, as you can see. The spring fits right on that thing, just like that. Just make sure it lines up. Pop it on there. Put the screws back in. My little ratchet screwdriver, I'm just going to tighten them down. Get a good snug fit there. And what I do is I go to opposite ends. I don't do it one after another like this. I go one here, then I bounce over here, do the opposite end, lock that one down, go back over to this side, lock this one down, jump down maybe to the bottom on the left side here, tighten this one down, and basically what this does, kind of like putting a gasket on your car motor. It keeps it from pinching on one corner or getting warped, because there is a little gasket in there. We want to keep it as flat and as evenly pressured as possible. Once we have that all tight, make sure that our trigger assembly piece in here is nice and tight. Feels pretty good to me. So the thing we need to pay attention to is this angle here, this 45-degree angle piece. As you can see, this means it's facing forward, okay? Now, some of these have an arrow on the bottom. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little arrow here in front of where the hole is, and it's pointing this way. This shows you the airflow. So we want the air to be going out the cannon, but the air chamber is in here. So the air is in the chamber and it goes out the barrel. So we're going to flip this over. It's actually going to point backwards. So we're going to put our nipple on here, screw one in here. This thing goes directly to the chamber here. Just screw it in there. Now this part of the cannon I don't glue in case you ever need to replace this valve. They last for a couple of years, but when they do wear out, you're going to want to put a new one on there. So I always leave this part unglued because the tighter you go, it expands, it holds itself tight. The chamber and the barrel will be glued, but the nipples and the actual valve itself I don't glue. So as you can see, I've got this in here. You're going to have it facing up this way, so we're going to paste this down just a little bit and we can adjust that later. So we're going to throw our second nipple in here. I'm going to throw an elbow piece on here. Another nipple in here. Basically we're just building the air chamber for it to flow with. Put another elbow piece here. And you can tighten these down later. I'm just kind of doing it snug so you can see. I'm going to throw this other nipple, our last nipple here, into the barrel. And now the barrel you can attach to this last elbow piece and twist it, and it'll screw itself right into place. Just like that. Now with the ring that came with your kit, we're going to slip that over the end of the barrel, and we're going to slip it over the end of the chamber piece right here. So if it doesn't fit, just loosen it a little bit. This one seems to fit pretty nicely. So I'm going to take my little 5/16 socket thing here, and I'm just going to cinch it up. This works a lot better than using a screwdriver. Don't over tighten it, you don't need to. So you can see we're starting to take shape here, and you can adjust this so that your pressure gauge is facing up towards you a little bit more. And as you twist this up, go ahead and twist your chamber down. It's still all nice and lined up. The last thing we need to do here is we're going to open up our little trigger assembly. I just got this at Home Depot. It's just your regular little blowgun trigger assembly. Your trigger assembly, it's already set up to receive your 1/4-inch nipple here. We're just going to screw that on. Face it forward, and there you have it, your MBTS-30 T-shirt launcher. All you need to do is add a little air in here. Takes about 2 seconds. Fill it up to about 80 psi. Put your T-shirt in there, stuff it down the barrel with a broomstick or a yardstick, and boom, off you go. You're good to go. So this is Mick from American Air Cannons saying thanks for watching and happy shooting.